Let's see, are we live yet? Okay, we have gone live. My name is Enzuro, and tonight I will be doing a fun Emacs Lisp hacking session. Part of the goal is for y'all to see Emacs Lisp, some of the packages we use in order to write beautiful Lisp code, and listen to some nice music and just overall have a nice relaxed time. I'm going to be playing an album by Undersaken called After Ultima. And we'll just play this up in the background as we go ahead and get started with our coding session. And hopefully we'll just have some laid back fun and enjoy ourselves. Let's get started here. Music is now going. Awesome sauce. Cool. So today we're going to work on a package called Lispy. What is Lispy? Lispy is a way to do modal editing in Emacs on Lisp. So what makes Lispy unique compared to most other forms of modal editing is that it only activates when you're on parentheses. Let's go ahead and see that real quick. Test.el. So let's say I have an S expression like this. While I'm not in front or behind a parens, for an opening parens, and at the end of an after parens, I can type just like I normally would. However, as soon as I'm before an opening parens, let's just say I hit the keystroke E. It'll go ahead and evaluate that X expression and show me what it looks like. Let me show you another thing Lispy can do. If I was to do, I had two S expressions next to each other, and I went to the end of the closing parentheses on the previous S expression, I would be able to simply do the right caret symbol, and bam, I was able to expand that X expression to contain the X expression underneath it. This is structured editing. It's structured editing meets modal editing. And it's very elegant because it only activates when you're on parens. There are other solutions that are like Predit, but the thing with Predit is I think it needs large key chords, whereas this only needs like one keystroke, right? So that's what I think makes this extremely unique and extremely engaging. So I accidentally became the maintainer for Emacs Lispy a few months ago, or maybe it's last year, because the maintainer disappeared and I depended on the package so much. So it's been a wild ride becoming a maintainer of a really important, really fun package, but it's also been kind of fun, and it's been a journey to kind of learn how to deal with problems that come up. Today, I would like us to deal with an interesting problem that just came up. This problem came from a user, and it was a problem I also noticed before too, but I wasn't sure if I was the problem, and it was just some weird part of my Emacs config that just wasn't working as intended, right? What happened is if you type in a colon, it will put a space. Lispy will automatically put a space. So let me go ahead and start up Sly, and let's go ahead and make this a little bit bigger. Okay, cool. If I do test colon, see that? It created a space, then it created a colon. That is really helpful in my understanding in Clojure, the way they do key values in their maps. Doesn't make sense in Common Lisp or Scheme. So I think what we have to figure out today is what do we want to do about this feature? The default is the space and the colon. Do we want that to be the default? Clojure is one of the more popular Lisps, and the previous maintainer was a Clojure developer. I think, though, a lot of people are going to be using Lispy with Emacs Lisp, Common Lisp, and Scheme, where this setting just doesn't make as much sense. So let's kind of take a look at Lispy's code and kind of how this is enabled, and think about out loud what might be the right direction to take this. And quite frankly, at this point, I don't actually know which direction I want to take it. I think I want us to figure this out on the call. So let's go ahead and go for it. So what this user says, and they're accurate, is that there is a variable called Lispy:p, which is set to true by default, which creates this behavior of the space before the colon. Okay, that's fine. So do we want to change that default? Or do we want to make it mode specific? Or do we want to simply update the documentation to say, hey, this is the behavior? Let's go ahead and take a look at everything. So I'm going to go ahead and look up lispy.el, and as you can see, that will go ahead and bring up everything in my repos directory. So 1 second, is I want to double check where we are with Lispy. Let me check. Okay, get remote v. Cool. I might be on somebody else's branch right now, so I'm going to check out master branch. Let's see, and I am behind the master by a bit, so let me go ahead and pull master from me, and me is origin. I'm in 0, so we're going to go ahead and do that. Okay, cool. So now we have Lispy. I'm going to go ahead and just evaluate the latest version, just so we have that. Okay, cool. It is now evaluated. So now let's go ahead and look for Lispy:p. It's funny, Vertigo takes a little bit of a while on some of these longer files. Lispy:p. Alright. So if true, the default, then add a space before inserting a colon following Lispy: space no regex. To disable this behavior, set the variable to null. Okay. So we could have also pulled up a def var by doing, oops, do I not have that up? Okay, I might have broken it. I sometimes break stuff in my Emacs instance, and I've been having issues with my modal editing on Meow, which is something I use. Okay, cool. So let's go ahead and just take a look. Space. Okay, cool. I was able to bring this up with CHV. That's the default setting. You don't need meow for that. So, and if I take a look at this, interesting. So it looks like that's actually the regex. That's not Lispy:p itself. Lispy:p. Okay, cool. Lispy:p. The documentation is here. All I had to do was CHV. I was able to search through that using my Emacs config. My Emacs config will be in the description, okay? So we see it's true. Cool. Do we think the right move here is to change the default here? That's a good question. So why don't we go ahead and go back to this file and say, should we change the default? Cons will be very clearly that we will break old user setups. Pros will probably work better for more setups, right? So that puts us in an interesting position. Now, what is interesting about that variable name, Lispy:p, is that it's typed Lispy:p, but it really, Lispy:p implies a Boolean, right? It implies a Boolean. It implies a function that returns a Boolean. And I don't usually see variables ending with /p in Lisp, right? Usually it's functions that end with functions that return booleans, they end with p. So I'm wondering, would it make sense, for instance, for us to change that to a function? I wonder how Lispy p is used. I'm going to do rgrep. Let me do Lispy : p. Let's do it in all files, and let's do it in. I wonder if I didn't grep that crap correctly. Let's see. Lispy : p dot el repos Lispy. Okay, cool. Interestingly enough, it only appears in like 2 spots. Isn't that kind of interesting? Yeah. So it only appears here, and only appears when Lispy : p. That's funny. So we could probably have a pretty easy way of refactoring this if we wanted to. Interesting here, Lispy space unless CDR association major mode in Lispy : no space regex. So there looks like there is a list here, and I think we saw that earlier and we accidentally pulled it up, of maybe modes that this should not be done in. So let's go ahead and see what that variable looks like. So I'm going to do Control H V again, and I'm going to go ahead and look at Lispy : no space regex. Oh, you know what's interesting here is this has slime REPL mode. It won't do it. Okay. It looks like there's a different one for list mode in general. Let me see what that looks like. All right. So we're gonna go here. Do test list. Dump one. Interesting. See, it didn't actually do a space there. It did it in the REPL mode. Now, what's interesting about this slime REPL mode is slime is an older common list IDE, and maybe this user was using it. But really, one thing that this is missing is fly REPL mode, which would be the REPL mode that I would use and most modern Emacs users are probably using, right? So I think actually the solution to this can be very simple and elegant, is let's simply add fly REPL mode as the first iteration. We'll talk to the user where else they're discovering this behavior, but in test.lisp it was fine. I didn't see anything annoying about that, right? So I think that would make sense. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and do that. Okay, so Lispy : regex. Aha! See, look, it was not even far off. So we're gonna do sly REPL mode. I'm a little worried that it didn't autocomplete that, but okay. Oops. I just pressed E in front of the parentheses to evaluate it. Okay, cool. I don't think it will need me to restart. It might need me to restart. Okay, fly. Start a new one. Still doing the same behavior. Let's double check CHV if Lispy : no space regex is still up. So look, it's looking like it's fine. I wonder if that's not the name of the mode. Remember the mode didn't autocomplete? Let's see. So we're gonna go back to slime or sly. And I'm gonna do Control HV. Oops, Control HM. It's not showing me all the modes. Let's see. It's usually Control HM, but I wonder if I messed something up on my setup. What's interesting is like the full list is Lispy mode, mRepl mode. By the way, one thing I forgot to do before I got started is I forgot to start my org mode that I'm working on this. It's one thing I like to do. So I'll do a clock in real quick. We probably got started, let's just call it 2:30. So as you can see, this is my org mode file for where I put all my projects. And that just makes it really easy to see how much time I'm spending on things every day, right? As you can tell, I only started doing this quite recently. So we're trying to figure out if this is actually called mRepl mode. So let me see. I'm going to do IM real quick. mRepl mode. Interesting. Okay, cool. Let's do mRepl mode. Okay. Awesome. Let's see. Slide changed. There you go. See? Quite quickly, we now have this behavior fixed in Sly. It only took us to find out where that regex was, what it was doing, what it was looking at. So it wasn't too hard. So let's go and take a look at this. Looks like my editor automatically makes white space differences. So we have this, and yeah, see, it replaced the tab with a space. That's fine. Cool. Now, since I'm the big old maintainer here, I can go ahead, just commit and push this, and then now we'll be fixed for Sly mRepl mode. Now, user did mention that they think that regex was wrong, so let me see. I guess Scheme doesn't want this feature either. Maybe Lispy should be major on an amendment mode, keep the default for T. Let's see. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to commit this, push this, and then ask the person who brought up this ticket if there's anything else that they would like to add here. Scheme mode is probably going to be what we're going to do. It works fine for us on a common Lisp file. We tried a .lisp file. So I think as it stands, it's good. We do have some Racket users, but are so far and in between that it's just not something, quite frankly, I focus on. So I usually just test Guile Scheme, Common Lisp, and Clojure. Those are the three ones I've really been supporting. I don't know if we need to be supporting anything else. So let's go ahead and one thing I like to do before I push this up is I'll reevaluate the whole file again. Def advice is an obsolete macro. Okay, that's just a warning. Okay, cool. Now let's just do eval buffer. Cool. Awesome. So I think we're good here. And by the way, I'm guessing I need to be the person who updates based on that warning. See that warning again, actually? Def advice add or define advice. That's an interesting change, but it's fine. Okay, cool. So this evaluate fine. So we're going to go ahead and push this, and then I'm going to go ahead and say added Sly mRepl mode to Lispy : no space regex, and then we push to git, and that's it. So as you can see, that was quite easy, and it wasn't too involved. Let's see if there's anything else we want to kind of go over today. So for my lispy.org, I'm going to go ahead and clock out, and bam, I did about 23 minutes of work on it. Not too bad. I was hoping to get through that album. I don't know if we're going to get through that album tonight. And then what I'm going to also do is do an org clock report. Right. And that will update this table. And I do the same thing as I did before. I'll go to Maggot, review the changes. Areas of streaming. Did I actually start mine? I don't think I did. So then I will go ahead and update Lispy. Update time spent on Lispy. I'm going to go ahead and push that up. I'm going to show you another one I'm working on right now too, is my Portuguese one. So this is pretty cool. As you can see, I just have the timelines of what it would take to reach A1, A2, B1, B2 proficiency. And I just have that in notes. And then I have all these steps I'm doing on my A1 towards my A1 proficiency. I use a website called practiceportuguese.com. And today I actually spent about an hour doing my flashcards. So I'm gonna tell you how one thing I kind of have to work around is when I do a lot of practice throughout the day, I'm not necessarily at Emacs, and I don't really use any of the mobile apps that are meant to make this easier. I just don't think my experience with mobile apps has not been very good. Let's just say it like that. So what I just do is at the end of the day, I'll go ahead and just update these dates. There's better ways to do it than just text, but I often just do this because it doesn't take that long. I keep the time the same every day. It doesn't really matter when I practice my Portuguese, quite frankly. It's not that the time is not really what matters. What matters is that I did it, right? So I spent about an hour on that today. So then that's what I'll do is when I get to my computer, I'll go ahead and add that, hey, I spent an hour on flashcards today. I will generally spend an hour when I am taking care of my baby, my daughter, and she's just running around and playing, and then I'll just be on my phone and just trying to practice my Portuguese in between her needing me. And I find that works out really well too, because there's times when the kids need you when they're like in this toddler stage, there's times they're just in their own head or just exploring. You just gotta keep them safe. So that's worked really well for me. So go ahead and add Portuguese flashcards for 11/04/2025. I don't know if I usually date things like that. So more about this is I'm using a method called the para method. Okay, para. So what para stands for is that projects, areas, resources, archives. So a project is going to be like, what am I working right now? I was trying to fix the Magic Trackpad battery life for the Linux kernel. I was making a game of Go, like the East Asian game of Go. I was trying to make a GNOME app for that. I have it kind of working. I wanted to port manuals to Nix. I wanted to port Workbench to Nix. And you can see this is just kind of how my notes look. As you can see here, there's a logbook. And then I also have just notes here. So that's projects, right? Resources are going to be larger projects that are kind of ongoing. For instance, what's a good one here? GNU is just a project I kind of have going. Just always trying to contribute whenever I can. Kernel is a good one, actually. So I can see I linked out my projects. I have notes on how to patch the kernel on Nix and Geeks. So that really helps. So that's how resources looks. Areas. We did Portuguese. That was like one of the areas, right? And you can see how that looks. And that's areas going to be something that's going to be ongoing. That's something I'm always working on. And that is kind of a neat way to just organize it, because it's not a project and it's not necessarily a set of resources, right? Lastly, was archive. I'll show you what I did. I did Emacs dark mode. I made Emacs dark mode, or GTK's dark mode, work on Emacs when compiled for pure GTK. and you can see the time I spent on that. And it only took like 4 hours. It actually wasn't hugely difficult. So that was nice. And yeah, that's how I do the para method. I will go ahead and paste the album that I'm listening to. I will go ahead and also paste my notes repo, Lispy, and my .emacs.d, which is how you can kind of get the setup that I have, this meow setup that is half broken because I'm an Emacs guy and I'm always halfway through things, right? So that's a nice kind of walkthrough through using org mode with the para method. I probably link to the para method somewhere as well too. Okay, so we had a pretty productive session. I think we just ended up changing regular expression. I will go ahead and tag the previous person. Actually, you know what? Let's do that right now. So we have this commit, right? So I'm gonna say I think we should just keep adding modes to the name of it as I did here. Modes 2, and then if you do back, you can escape and use Unicode or monospace fonts, which is nice for we're talking about variables. So the backticks. I'm going to go ahead and do Lispy : no space regex. Notably in my scenario, Sly was missing, but Slime was present. Which other modes do you think we should add to this variable? Awesome. Cool. And with that, we had a very, very productive night. Out of curiosity, how much time is left on this album? Okay, we went through about half of it. I wonder if I'll recycle this album next time. On Bandcamp, I was able to get the musicians' albums, like 66 of them, for like, they only charged me $7. I rounded up to 10 because I thought that was like a ridiculously good deal. And I think like a lot of hacker nerd people, I'm trying to get a lot of these. I'm trying to rebuild like a straight up music file collection legally. Like I want a legal one. And I know back in the day we used to all have them, and streaming kind of destroyed that, and now we don't own anything. So it would be really cool to own music files again and kind of choose your own music player. Remember we used to choose Winamp back in the day? And yeah, just have a little bit more control and be able to actually support artists, because you know they make pennies from streaming. So I think it'll be really cool to kind of build up that collection, 66 albums for $10 at a time. And there's just a lot of interesting music on there too. I just like literally went to bandcamp.com. Okay, I just typed in like trip hop. Trip hop I used to be really into back in the day. I don't know if I would say I'm really attracted to any specific genre of music these days. I kind of listen to a little bit of everything. And then all these great albums just came up, and a lot of them were actually by the same person, right? Undersaken has about 66 albums. That's incredible. So I bought them all for very little money, and I'm going to kind of go through them, and then we'll be able to kind of blow through them on this stream. And this is also just an advertisement for what I think is really cool music. And I hope to kind of, as we kind of hack on Lisp and GNOME and GNU and all the things we're going to hack on this channel, that we'll be able to kind of explore and listen to some really cool music too. I kind of want this setup to be really relaxing and laid back and enjoyable, and maybe a little bit social in the long run. But even if it doesn't become it, these videos will be out there forever. And if somebody's just curious about Emacs and Lispy and modal editing and all that, these videos will be at least a learning resource, because there's really not a lot of stuff on GNU and GNOME and Emacs and music, just chilling and all this kind of stuff. So I'm hoping to hoping to provide that for everybody. But all right, we ended a little bit early today. I was expecting there was going to be more, but there really wasn't. So we're good. I will hopefully have another project tomorrow. All right, peace out.